Venus is one of the brightest objects in our sky. For thousands of years, people watched it rise before sunrise or linger after sunset, shining through the darkness with a steady white light. Even today, if you place Earth and Venus side by side in a diagram, the comparison feels almost unavoidable. They are nearly the same size. They are both rocky worlds. They orbit in the same inner region of the solar system. From a distance, Venus looks familiar. For much of the 20th century, that familiarity created an expectation. Maybe Venus was another Earth. Maybe beneath those clouds was a world of oceans, continents, storms, and landscapes hidden from view. The comparison seemed reasonable. In fact, it seemed difficult to avoid. But there was a problem. Nobody could see the surface. Unlike Mars, which revealed deserts and polar caps through a telescope, Venus remained concealed. The entire planet sat behind an unbroken layer of cloud. Every image ended at the atmosphere. Every observation stopped at the same white barrier. The clouds turned Venus into a possibility. People could imagine almost anything beneath them. And for a time, the idea of Earth's twin survived because nothing visible contradicted it. The planet remained hidden. The explanation remained intact. Yet the closer scientists looked, the more that explanation began depending on something nobody had actually seen. Spacecraft eventually started crossing the gap between worlds. As Venus grew larger in their instruments, the clouds remained. A bright disk became a larger bright disk. A mystery approached, but it did not open. The expectation still lingered. If Venus truly resembled Earth, the evidence would eventually appear. Instead, the first measurements introduced an uncomfortable detail. The atmosphere was far thicker than expected. Then came another. Temperatures appeared far higher than an Earth-like world should possess. The clouds were still there. The surface was still invisible.
Our neighboring world.
Yet numbers arriving through radio signals were beginning to pull the story in a different direction. The old picture had not collapsed, but it no longer fit as comfortably as before. If Venus was simply Earth hidden beneath clouds, why did the measurements look so strange? The planet that seemed familiar from afar was becoming harder to explain up close. More observations arrived. More instruments passed through the atmosphere. The temperatures were not merely warm. They were extreme. The pressure was not slightly higher than Earth's. It was crushing. The atmosphere itself seemed overwhelming, dense beyond anything people had imagined when they first looked at the bright world in the evening sky. The contradiction grew difficult to ignore. Each new measurement should have strengthened the Earth twin idea. Instead, everyone weakened it. The clouds had once protected the assumption. Now they protected the mystery. Because if conditions above the surface were already this hostile, what exactly lay underneath? The answer emerged slowly. Not through photographs. Through replacement. Human imagination began disappearing as radar maps took its place. Invisible landscapes became visible outlines. Mountain ranges emerged. Vast volcanic plains appeared. Features hidden for generations started taking shape across computer screens. The surface of Venus was no longer an empty canvas for speculation. It was becoming a real place. And it looked nothing like the world many had imagined. Later probes descended through the atmosphere itself. As they fell, the light dimmed through layers of cloud. The pressure increased. The heat intensified. Eventually, machines reached the ground and transmitted images from a landscape of rock and dust beneath a sky unlike anything on Earth. The hidden world had finally been revealed. Not an alternate Earth. Not a tropical paradise concealed by clouds. Not a familiar world waiting to be discovered. The twin idea was collapsing, and something more interesting was replacing it. The question was no longer, what is Venus? The question had become, what happened to Venus? Because the comparison with Earth had never fully disappeared, the planets were still similar in size, still neighbors, still products of the same solar system. Yet one carried oceans, weather, and life. The other possessed a surface hot enough to melt lead beneath an atmosphere of extraordinary pressure. The difference was too large to dismiss as coincidence. Somewhere in their histories, paths that once seemed similar had diverged. Exactly how that divergence unfolded remains an active area of research. Scientists continue investigating Venus's past, including whether it may once have experienced conditions very different from those seen today. But the central reversal no longer depends on every missing detail being solved. The reversal is already visible. The closer humanity moved toward Venus, the less Earth-like it became. The bright object in the sky did not transform. Our understanding did. The same comparison that once inspired confidence now creates caution. Return to that original image. Earth and Venus side by side. At first glance, they still look like siblings. The sizes remain similar. The shapes remain familiar. Nothing about the image itself has changed. Yet its meaning is completely different. Once, it suggested similarity. Now, it suggests divergence. Venus matters not because it became another Earth. It matters because it did not. Because one of the most familiar-looking planets in the solar system turned out to be one of the most alien. And because the clouds hiding Venus were not concealing a world we recognized, they were concealing a warning. A reminder that similar beginnings do not guarantee similar endings. A reminder that appearances can survive long after explanations fail. And a reminder that Earth's twin became Earth's opposite.